This week's episode is brought to you by Lumoid. Lumoid is a try-before-you-buy service for all sorts of consumer electronics. From camera gear and drones to fitness trackers and audio equipment, they have an extensive collection of gear, and you can check them out at lumoid.com/photorectv. This week, new Lumoid customers can save 15% off their rental by using the code PHOTOREC15. And by viewers like you. Visit photorec.tv/support to learn how you can support this show and join our community of photographers.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another Photo Mish Mash. I'm Christina.
And I'm Toby.
And this is episode 87. So we're both different. You may have noticed something different. Toby is joining us from Florida, where he's attending a Sony event. I'm Christina. I am a full-time wedding photographer.
I'm Toby. I am a full-time photographer and educator.
Every week we bring you news, we bring you Instagram challenges, photography discussions, and we answer your questions live at the very end of the show. This week we're going to skip the live questions because we have a little bit of a shorter show. But yeah, we can get started.
That's right. The quality here, the Wi-Fi is a little sketchy, so bear with us. But I do want to bring you some hands-on information about the Sony a6300, which I have right in my hand. So we have a section of the show usually called Lead on the Table. Right. If my video is not coming through so well, I hope my audio at least is. And so Sony has had us all down here, lots of different YouTubers and bloggers and we got popular photography, we've got Chris and Jordan from the camera store, we've got the Northroops, of course, if you followed us on Instagram. So it's been a lot of fun to meet all of these people. One of the favorite pictures I've taken actually is of Chris from the camera store, just a nice black and white last night. So Sony knows how to throw a party. They've been treating us really nice. So one of the things that I like is that where they're taking us to shoot is not controlled environments. We shot in this really dingy, dark, poorly lit restaurant last night. Also doing a band with horrible colored lights, and so it's been really kind of struck up the cameras. I think these cameras they're also running with the a6300 Mark II, who use with a new full frame glass 24/7 and 7200. So let's come back to the a6300 for a second, and usually I'll have a story to do that in the next couple of weeks. I'm not going to rush anything out the door. I think the camera store has been recording something really nice, but something outstanding. It's just really easy to say that at this price point, there is no better hybrid camera. It is significant improvements in autofocus over the a6000, which I was pretty impressed with in the first place. The low light performance is noticeably better. I feel like, and I haven't shared samples with you, but I feel like we would be okay delivering ISO 12,800 file performance. They have some noise in it. I'm not saying they're ultra clean, but they are perfectly acceptable to what I should say. So those two things are big changes that I really appreciate. And there's one small change that I appreciate is the whole design of the back is exactly the same, except we've got the low and that switch up here. But there's a new way to use this kind of dial here. And when you go into focus selector mode, it will stay in that focus selector mode even if you go to take some pictures. So it becomes basically like a dedicated joystick. Now, the downside to that is when you then go to switch ISO or something, it's an extra click in the middle, then you can switch your ISO. So it's kind of like, it's really not that much better, but it's mostly changing your focus point. It's nice to be in that mode for a while. It kind of gives you a joystick on the back. So that was their way to do that. I appreciate that. I've actually started to mint that on my a700 Mark II. As we've been switching back and forth between these two cameras. So some picture videos, honestly, I haven't looked at any of it yet. I've been overhearing with other people, the guys that are really video focused here. Honestly, it's definitely a nice improvement as well. though. A nice lens selection now. Some people are coming on strong, and it's pretty nice. Not perfect though, so you have to wait for my full review to find out a couple of the little niggles, like how many systems. I mean, that's not a a6300 problem. That's still wrong. Yeah. And also, almost the last thing now, I love every question. But I've been thinking about this camera for the last 3 days solid. This camera, it becomes a special camera with the menu system in this camera because there are different features that are packed in here. So you can now focus while you're on the side for extra precision focusing. So you know how you can also zoom in on live view, and then you can kind of use that to adjust your manual focus. You can now zoom in on live view and have a little crosshair where you're focusing very precisely on something. That's cool, but it is just very lost in the menu. And so if I didn't have these Sony guys here, I would have passed all over a bunch of times. And there are a bunch of other features that kind of work hand in hand to make the camera even better at focusing. And they're all just kind of lost. So.
I was going to say that if you guys are, the samples that you posted yesterday on the 84 on the blog, are those from the a6300?
Yes, those are right.
So if you guys want to pick up some samples taken with the a6300, log on to photorec.tv and check out the blog post with the sample box. Lots of them are really, really great. Yes, it was really nice.
So, in case you're asking what's wrong with the menu, it's hard to find things. It's a disorganized mess, and there's no great organization. They need to add my favorite section, the tab section. They also need to kind of reorganize it and make the focusing system better. One place where I think Sony has done a nice job here with the 7D Mark II, and that AF system is laid out in these nice little tabs that you can select that I'm focusing on something erratic, or I'm focusing on something walking towards me. So you have all of this little detail, and in this camera, you basically have all of that personalization, but it's spread all over the place, and so it's a little bit nice. I saw Roger asked about wildlife photography for this camera. Well, I mean, Sony still doesn't have the lenses. You could buy the incredibly expensive 70 to 200. We don't actually even know its price yet. For this year, I put my hands on it, but I believe it's going to be about $2,500. And then you could play on one of the brand new color converters, which I've also put my hands on. But that is an extremely expensive way to get to be a wildlife photographer with this camera. If you're serious about photographing birds in flight, Canon has better value still. Sony needs to come out with a couple longer, affordable times for just longer lenses besides 200. 200 is just too short.
Comfort has also been playing with a couple of new lenses, specifically the 8514. What are your thoughts on that?
This is really nice lens. I want it. They set up some awesome scenarios today. They took us to this amazing little hotel where they had taken over 3 rooms. And when I say a room in this hotel, it's one of those hotels that have multiple rooms, like a big old bathroom, a big old bedroom, a big old living room. And they were reenacting kind of typical Miami food techniques. The Scarface, there was Miami Rice, and then Satini was the Miami CSI. Long story short, I was shooting these beautiful models in this kind of fun light. They had it lit really nicely with the 85. I was shooting at 1.4, 1.6, 2, and it is sharp. Sorry, that was really short now, but it is very sharp. I love the mechanical aperture range. You can put on auto if you want. You control from the camera. If you don't, you can just dial that range very nicely. Very quality grip, absolutely.
Is it available for purchase yet?
Will be very soon. Very soon.
And what is the price point for this?
$17.90, I think. It's not cheap.
That's a cool nice for Canon.
But it's a 1.4. But I'm going to get the best sharp. It also feels like a little bit faster to focus. The 8513, that's not responsive.
Yeah, the 8513 is different for focus.
I think it's in the 24-70 f2.8. It's nice that Sony's got these out now. I mean, the 7200 is coming again, not cheap. But this feels and looks to me very similar to the Canon, which is very sharp. And the quality is very nice. I have no complaints about this lens either. So this is good, and and I think they make the system a much more well-rounded system now with those lenses and then more coming. So.
Great. So we wanted to take roughly 1 minute to one reminder just to go to some of that if you're enjoying this conversation and want to always think about this a6300. And also we wanted to thank our sponsor, Lumoid, for sponsoring this episode. Lumoid, I'll just let you take over, Toby, because you do much better than I will talk about.
Well, Lumoid is great because they allow you to try gear before you buy it. Or rather than say, well, I've got really limited funds to get this gear, and if I rent it for X number of dollars, I can just put that towards the gear. But first off, I like you all to watch the show. That helps, figure out what's right for you. But the absolute best way is to put something in your hand on your camera and shoot for a day, a weekend, a week. And the great thing about Lumoid is they have all of this gear for you to try. And if you decide, that piece of gear is going to work for me, then you are earning credit while you rent towards purchasing it. So it works out really nicely. For this trip, I borrowed the a6000. I don't own that, but I wanted to make sure that I remembered all the good features about it and the things that bothered me. So I was shooting with it for the couple of days leading up to this trip, and I've been shooting with it some on this trip, just kind of go back and forth, side by side. It's fantastic that that service is out there and allows me to do that. And then I can put those credits towards, not necessarily the a6000, was sort of a good time now, a good value thing. But I can put those credits towards any kind of gear.
Yeah. And that's what's unique about Lumoid. And what sets it apart from other rental companies is that you can apply part of the credit that you put towards the rental to an item to just choose to purchase it. Which I think is really cool. It's you don't feel like you're really wasting any money. A lot of the times people will sort of hesitate to rent something because the cost it doesn't justify the cost if they're considering purchasing it as well. It's an added cost on top of the price of the item. So it really is nice to be able to put some of that into that and if you do end up buying it. What's the link for people to check out this?
Well, if people want to, first off, the GoPro giveaway is ending tonight. So go to lumoid.com/photorec. Toby, this is a U.S. only. Sorry about that, folks, but Lumoid is a U.S. only company. Since this happened, I can bring this giveaway. It's only in the U.S. You can win a GoPro Hero 4 Black, yours for keep forever. And that again is at lumoid.com/photorec. Toby.
Yep, and you have until the end of the day today is March 7th to enter, so don't wait. Go around and enter the giveaway right now.
And we'll put show notes down below with that link soon, and along with that is the coupon code fairly 15% off your first time rental from Lumoid. So not only are you earning credits, but you can save a little bit too, and I believe that's Photorec students for TV, where again we'll put that link down below. We want to thank Lumoid for the sponsorship. They help make this show possible.
Yeah. So now that we have talked about the gear we're making, we're just going to jump right onto these gear and a couple of articles that we're going to discuss. The first one is kind of a kind of fun piece. The MacBook selfie stick is now a thing. So what it is, if you want to switch to that screen so that people can see it. So forget selfie sticks for cell phones or tablets. It looks like somebody has created a MacBook or a laptop selfie stick. Why? I was going to say no, but it is an art project created by somebody. And what do you think about this?
Well, I like how it highlights the silliness of these selfie sticks, but at the same time, I'm feeling the pull. Not so much of a MacBook selfie stick, but just a regular selfie stick. It's actually within reach of me on the little, what do you call that, bar in the hotel where if you take something you have to pay a lot of money. The mini bar. On the mini bar, along with peanut M&Ms, cashews, alcohol, is a selfie stick. The mini bar here is electronic. It has pick anything up for more than 20 seconds, it'll automatically be charged to my room. And I don't think Sony will pick up the tab for a selfie stick. I could ask. So, this is kind of fun. I'm surprised that they went straight to the MacBook selfie stick. Where is the iPad selfie stick? I thought we would have started there and worked our way up to a MacBook. They would get the app selfie stick the next thing, along with a really long extension cord. That's what I wanted.
Yep, and next up is what is it?
That's okay.
GoPro built a two video editing startup for $105 million to boost its software. So they heard that GoPro has some losses in the last quarter for some other cameras. It looks like now they're starting to move it into bringing their whole product to the full circle. In that they tools to capture footage, and then they're also releasing tools to edit the footage on the go, on your phone and your tablet. And it looks very promising. It looks very cool. I think that it's really awesome to have the ability to just be able to cut a video on your phone. I think it's really
right. This is GoPro's real struggle because we talked about this before. We've been out snowmobiling last winter in Yellowstone and just watching snowmobilers go by with GoPros on their head just constantly running 4K or 1080.
They do with the footage. Yeah, exactly. So this is great. I think, I wonder if that was part of the reason why they were sort of, losing the sales, because, GoPros are really crucial and what actually ends up happening to that footage. There's so much footage that we have coming from things like film actors and trips that we've done that we've never done anything with. And it's just nice to be able to import that on your phone, which is always on you, and you're able to edit it, and actually produce a nice clip that you can share with people.
Yeah.
So look out for that. I guess these apps are maybe already available, and they're just being bought by GoPro. They're just acquiring them. This story is, if you're an iPhone a750 owner, you may want to look at your serial number. There's been a recall over a federal issue that they had a while ago that they recalled a bunch of cameras for. Turns out that for some reason there is an ugly red square that is crossed by the center of some of the cameras. So an easy way to figure out if you've been affected by this is to check your serial number, and the article itself is from Petapixel, and I'm trying to see if Petapixel doesn't actually seem to say what to look for in your serial number to determine whether or not your camera has been recalled.
Go to the Nikon website, you can look at the serial number, and then it will let you know.
Okay, great.
Okay. So, I haven't tried the a6300 audio. I have not plugged any audio sticks into it yet. But it does have a headphone jack, which is nice. Right? Yes.
So, next up, yesterday DJI released the Phantom 4, which is a camera drone that can fly itself, which is pretty insane. So you can program, with the current drones, you can program a path, from point A to point B so that it records, I guess with some of the drones you can do that. But this one is actually going to be intelligent enough to have focus tracking. It's going to be able to track subjects. It's going to be able to analyze the scene and sort of decide I don't know what it's going to use or what it's going to prioritize, but it's going to be able to decide what to focus on and what to follow and what to record. So it's going to be really cool. What is that?
You would set all of that in the app, so you've got a little touch screen that is showing you what the camera speed, what the camera is currently recording. You circle your subject, and then it recognizes that in its brain. It's building the 3D model of the world around it based on a bunch of different cameras that it has, not just the main one, but other cameras that have a focus model. And then, yes, it will track. So you can be to fly just a few feet away from subjects, people, race cars, without worrying about something terrible happening because the drone's going to be able to avoid any obstacles. Yes, a smart autopilot that's going to adjust. So it's pretty slick. Coming in at 1,300 and available, I think, right now.
Cool. Some pretty fun news. Netflix is running a type of competition contest to find somebody who they can pay $2,000 a week to come and teach Instagram for them. So you can actually apply by following Netflix and tagging 3 of your photos with a hashtag, which I believe is Grandmaster3. And the deadline to enter is March 6th. So if you think you've got some epic travel photos or some epic photos on Instagram feed, there's some cool music for that. Really cool. They'll pay for all your travel and they'll give you a stipend. It sounds like $2,000 a week for teams.
It's interesting. Corey brought up an interesting point on the Facebook group about this, and I think he's right. I wonder how much they're going to base based on pictures versus the followers. So, we're getting into this economy where followers, clearly,
more valuable than
they're necessarily valuable than possible. I mean, look at,
I imagine they're going to want to use some of the photos for their own purposes. So they probably will want at least some very basic skill person.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was thinking there's only the audio jack on there. There is no headphone jack on the a6300. I have not tried that yet. I bet the Kansas City TV guys have.
Oh, that's it for news. And for news, and now we've got our photos from space. So I'm just going to go over. So if you want to talk about the live program, feel free.
Okay. So this is cool, especially because Scott Kelly, who just landed a day or two ago, he spent 355 days in space, breaking the record for the U.S. astronaut. I think maybe there's a recent astronaut that's been a little bit longer. But, he also was a pretty good photographer provider up there, and I'm looking at these pictures too. You kind of, I think, would assume they would get bored after a while, just the Earth down below you. But if you've ever looked at some of our other shows where we talked about some of the gear they have some ultra telephoto lenses, all Nikon stuff, they have some really long telephoto Nikon lenses. And so they can get some really nice detailed shots. And there's just a lot of different fantastic varieties here. And then, of course, you can just point it off towards the horizon and there's no all the way out and get a movie and stuff like that as well. So it's really neat, stuck inside this little metal capsule room. Not that little, but it's not that big either. Floating around the Earth tons and tons of time. I don't know how long it takes to orbit. I think it's pretty quick, like 90 minutes or something. So, he went around the Earth a lot of times, but found a lot of different cool things to point the camera at and photograph. And so Maxwell's put this nice piece.
Yeah, there are a lot of pictures. So go check it out. There'll be links on the show notes down below. So as the rest of the articles that we've talked about earlier today. That's it for news. Now we're going to move on to the Instagram account. And I've got your pictures. I've got your honorable mentions pulled up. So the first one is by Marcus 20K. And it's a photo of the American flag with, I'm sure you guys can see that I need to describe it. But it's a photo of the American flag and a lamp for screen.
I love the minimalism of this, and the flag is clearly subject, but the lens over there, I always thought it had a little balance. And really liked how it just kind of fades away to nothing as the light fades out. It just looks like it's hovering. I also like the different color temperatures you can get and whatever is lighting the spotlight lighting up the flag. So really like this Marcus 20K. Great job. Good honorable mention. Thank you. The other honorable mention is Tipsy Seagull there. I guess that's a little then with this little HDRs, which I don't always love. I always even say HDR program. I don't always love, but you know, we got the perfect leading line, the flag blowing to the left. It's nice. It was kind of a stormy look and nuclear power cooling stacks in the background. There's just a lot of nice elements to the picture that I enjoy without any one of them being disruptive, and the flag is clearly has been so great.
Yeah. And your winner is H.H.
H.H.
Toronto, Ontario.
Just fantastic. I love that the first thing I see in this picture, the first thing I saw when I pulled up was the flag. And then I just kind of moved down the page. Because you talked about this before, right?
Yeah.
Like we read left to right. So
yeah, that's cool. And what's also really cool about this picture is that the perfect framing of both the Space Needle and the flag. It's like really incredible. So this is very, very cool.
Yeah, so it's very nicely done. There's a lot of, I think, what I call layers to this, and very thoughtful, excellent job, H5. I love it.
Yeah. My turn, my honorable mention was also Market 20K. I had exactly the same thoughts that Toby did. I love the minimalism of the iPhone on me on Instagram. You know me, you know that I love simple, super simple things in general, but also simple photography, and this speaks to both for that. I also just really love the flow, the sort of the movement of the flag. I think it has a really, a very beautiful look to it. So that was pretty cool. My next honorable mention is the Purple Photography, and this is a gorgeous, gorgeous landscape, and you've got this like sunbeam sort of like really pretty flag that nicely frames the background. And it's really, really pretty. Yeah, so neat for that. And my winner is Louise Bello. I just love this. First of all, I love the really simple composition. I think that's really awesome. Secondly, I love the placing of the subject. I guess it's almost on the lower left side of the frame, not quite, but it still works. And it's just really cool and unexpected. So really good job. I don't know if you set this up or if you just captured it, but it's really awesome details in the clouds, and the light's beautiful as well. It's very, it looks like maybe it's like late afternoon sun, which is pretty nice conditions for photography. So nicely done. Thanks everybody for submitting this week. What's next week's challenge?
Next week's challenge is street art. I decided today we were taken down to the Wild Wall section of Montana. This is kind of cooler art district with unbelievable graffiti. I think I messaged you and said, there's that place where you shot an engagement session. The story in New York, and also the LA art district. So similar. If people have been there, it's kind of similar. But the most graffiti I've ever seen in one place, more than a story section. Just wall after wall after wall, covered in it. Some really great stuff. And I put up a little Facebook video about that when I was shooting there. So that was my inspiration. I made the executive decision. It's street art. So go out, find the best street art, and go watch my Facebook video. It's like a minute and a half long for some tips on how to capture a little bit more interesting street art.
Cool. So this week, because Toby's away, our discussion is going to be a photo critique. So earlier today, I asked some people from our Facebook group. If you're not familiar with our Facebook group, we created it for those people who support us on Patreon. So they have access to support from us. Most people do. There's a great community of people who help each other, and people as friends, and there's some critiques. And so today, I asked some people to submit photos for critique on our show, and we got some critiques. So did you want to stick around for this, or do you want to
Let's hold off that for just a second and see if anybody has any other questions about the a6300 or either of the ones that, and then I'll go off, you'll finish critiquing, and everybody will have a wonderful Wednesday evening. And thank you for a couple of the questions. STDTTL just asked what's the back screen on the a6300 dim when you're recording the 4K, same as the a700 is done. Cross-in messages put a little bit different. Don't know why that is. And you do have an extra crop factor as well when you are shooting 4K. I have heard from, I believe it was, Matt Erie channel, and he has done some stress testing as far as heat goes, no overheating issues that he's run into as well as I've heard from him. I haven't stress tested, but I have shot multiple 4K clips, and it's been fine. I will say that on manufacturing something about the screen, that price station, the graffiti and brilliant viewing time, Miami sunshine, and it was hard to see on its default setting, but turning it manual setting +2, and I was able to see. I used it with a photodiodes adapter and the Sigma 50mm Canon lens, could be not lens, and I guess it's decent. It's still not nearly as good as the native glass, and again, anytime you're using these adapters, you end up using the kind of IAF and the flatten those, things like that. So I have not tried focusing with the 7200 FCA David. I've only seen it, and I might get a chance to try it in the next year or so. But with the 74 half turn, the 7200 F4, that is going to have to allow, I believe, to be coming out of that soon. On the a6300, focusing on the wakeboarders, going 20, 25 miles an hour, I was very happy with the number of in-focus shots, and 11 frames per second is pretty insane. If you haven't, go to photograph.tv/humble, and you can see a GIF of Chelsea and Tony Northrup. Tony flipping into a boom pit, Chelsea doing it on his jump, and it's almost cinematically smooth because 11 frames a second. So it's, it's impressive, and the autofocus is quite good. Don't have any news on the Sigma yet. Yeah,
sometimes this has been having way too much fun building.
We have been having a lot of fun too, and the amount of free alcohol is a little insane. It's everywhere. Breakfast, lunch, and I'm sorry, it wasn't breakfast. Breakfast is pretty smoothies, but lunch, after lunch where we were shooting, the bar is open and available to us. Lunch, I won't go into the problem. They've had a lot of really good drinks. People have enjoyed themselves. If there's any blurry pictures that I post or anybody else posts that you see, probably not the camera, throw it back. So.
Cool, but I think I'm going to do some critique of some of the photos that were submitted. You're welcome to stay on for that till you're not sure how you want to.
I think I'm going to say good night because I got to get ready to head out for dinner. And if anybody has questions about the a6300 they would like to see answered in a full review, or they've answered, put them in the comments, not the chat going on now, because that's going to go always going to put in the comments of this video, and I will get back to them the next day or so. And I think we will not have a live for next week. I'm going to stay during a little family vacation, and we will be back on March 16th. Is that correct, Christina?
I'm going to take your word for it.
Okay.
I'm still available to,
Yeah, that's right. So, everybody have fun. Leave comments. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And thanks for watching. Now I'm going to go to Christina, master of critiquing and editing. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you. Have a good one. Enjoy yourself.
Thanks. Bye.
Right. So, I'm just going to go over about 11 pictures that were submitted. Trying to run through it as quickly as possible. Right? If you want to share my screen whenever you're ready. Great. We have this image by doesn't have the name on the text on the title, so I can't remember who submitted this, so I apologize. But I believe this is a photo taken from sunrise on a wedding day. I love the colors, like right away that's the first thing that stands out to me, and I like the silhouette, or the idea of the silhouette. The exposure on the sun is pretty spot on. I don't feel like there's any really heavy lens for the shadow of turning. I would say that there's not enough context in the image, not enough detail in the shadows to really tell what's going on. So it looks like it's a paddle that's sticking out of whatever is at the bottom. But I don't really know, like, what? Is it a canoe nearby? Is it, like, why is there a paddle there? There's no clue, but let's see if I can turn out the shadows a little bit. I'm going to go into the develop module. And, oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so now we see that it is a kayak. That is one of the sunset, so that makes a lot more sense. I know the person that submitted this, we submitted a more edited version, but to me it didn't make any difference, so I'm wondering if it was just like a really subtle difference. In this case, I would encourage you next time to do not necessarily an HDR, but to take multiple exposures, expose for the shadow and then expose for the background and the sunset, and then combine them in Photoshop or in some HDR software and edit it so that you can bring some of the shadows back so that we can get a little bit more information of what's happening in the foreground while still getting the nice soft colors of the sunset. All in all, though, it's a cool picture. Thank you for submitting it. The next photo is by Alexandra K, and it's a really nice and simple photograph of this statue. It looks like it was taken sometime in the middle of the day, maybe like 1:12. It doesn't quite like 12, maybe like 2 or 3. Like the sun seems like it was a little bit lower on the horizon based on the shadows of the statue, but maybe some perspective at the end of it. We like this photo for a few reasons. It's not a super complex image. The subject, which is the statue, is really nicely framed within the trees and the tree line. The horizon is great. It looks like it was shot with a wide angle lens, but there's not a lot of distortion. And it's just a really clean, nice, and simple photo to remember this moment by. So thanks, Alexandra, for submitting it. I don't really have any other feedback other than that. Move on to this image, and it's a beautiful landscape. This is gorgeous. The exposure is really nice. You don't really have, even though you have really bright clouds, you're not overexposing them, which tells me that you looked at your scene and you exposed really well to make sure that you're moving between the highlights and the shadows. The histogram also, I'm looking at the histogram here, and it looks like your blacks are clipped and your whites are clipped. Which is a great thing because it adds a lot of contrast and a lot of crispness to the image, so it doesn't feel flat, even though there's a lot of light, which oftentimes makes photos look kind of flat. The only thing that was so different about this image, which I realize that it's not necessarily something you can control, is where the clouds are in relation to these two, I want to say peaks, maybe hills. I really wish that the clouds were either on this side or the hills were on this side, because it feels like it doesn't feel super balanced. The image doesn't feel super balanced. I understand that you were trying to capture the ocean and as well as the landscape. So, if you have had an opportunity to wait for the clouds to move a little bit more, so that the composition is a little bit more balanced and there's a little bit more on the left side, like right here, then, you wait for that moment. The Photography is all about being patient and just waiting for the perfect, that decisive moment when you take a photograph. Otherwise, though, I think you did an awesome job. This is a beautiful, beautiful landscape. This was submitted by Corey, and he sent two. He sent the original, and then he sent an edited one for reference. So let's just go back and forth between these two. And I like that you brought out a lot of the detail in your edit. I think that's really great because you use all of that really cool grass and all the cool detail in the sand in this image right here. And you also, it looks like you also removed the person on the top right, or on the right side of the image, which I think definitely strengthens the image because it removes that sort of almost tangent where that person is like almost at the edge from that point. So great job doing that. My critique on your edit is going to be a couple of things. First of all, you have brought up the shadows and reduced the highlights a little bit too much, and then punched up the clarity and possibly the contrast as well, to the extent that you are getting a little bit of a halo around here. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. You see that? So I'm not sure what approach you took to sort of bring back the colors in the sky, but it's too much. You really don't want to be able to see this type of halo effect in your image because it can look very overpriced. The second thing that I'm noticing is there's all very sort of happening on these guys are the same thing. It's sort of bringing back the highlights and adding contrast possibly there. There are these very distinct lines right here on the sun, which don't feel very natural to me. Which again, just makes the photo feel a little bit overprocessed. And lastly, this is an aesthetic preference. But I personally don't really love this sort of like aquamarine type teal color in the top part of the image. Again, if you do like it, then definitely stand by it and keep it. But if you just wanted to change it and make it look a little bit more realistic, I would go to my a6300 palette, and I would just change the aqua tones to something a little bit cooler. So you can see how that, it's a very subtle change, but it makes a huge difference in my opinion. And that's it. Otherwise, the composition is awesome. I like that the sun is nicely balanced by this hill, and my eye walks through the entire image, which is very important because I can appreciate all the different details. The sun sort of hitting this part of the little grass. It's just a really beautiful thing. It's clear testimony. This photo is submitted by Gary, and I love it because it's a very nice, creative portrait. It's sort of untraditional, but it still has a lot of personality and a lot of, it's really nice and creative. My feedback for you is tone down a little bit on skin softening. The skin looks way too overprocessed. There is no clear detail around the edges. For example, the hair. This looks kind of ghosty, if that makes sense. It looks kind of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right word. This looks kind of flat. So I would tone that down. And then if you really wanted to soften her face, and just try to focus on the skin with a little bit more of isolated change. The other thing that I'm noticing is that it's very blue. You can see at the image, the temperature of the image is very blue. You can see it in her pupils that they're slightly blue. So I would just warm it up a little bit. And as I warm it up, I'm seeing that it's going to turn a little bit green. So I'm going to just add a little bit of magenta to compensate. And the pupils still look a little bit green, but a little bit closer. One thing that you could do is to sort of desaturate or yellow just the pupil just to make it different. I'm just going to go back and change the difference between these for the temperature adjustment and after. So try that and play with the temperature and the changing and see if you can find a play that you're happy with. This portrait is really nice. There's a little bit of a tangent intersecting with this person's head. So I'm going to just drop the camera up a little bit in order to avoid that. Otherwise, my only feedback for you is maybe just ease up on the vignetting. It's a little too strong. The vignetting, the purpose of the vignetting is sort of to bring attention to the center of the image, not to cause a distraction. So just ease up on it. If you really want to bring attention to this and make this a little bit more prominent, maybe just go in on the left and just burn this area a little bit. Just subtly you get touch darker. This image is by Anne. It's a beautiful landscape, a beautiful black and white landscape. And honestly, I don't really think I have a ton of feedback for you. This image is great. It feels very balanced. I really like how it's split and like almost like center. I may just take these things out. I'm not really sure what they are. I mean, they're part of the landscape. But they sort of like caught my eye and took me away from all of this. So maybe just Photoshop this out. And then maybe try to bring it a little bit of detail back up here in the highlights, while still adding some contrast. I find that my favorite black and white images are really punchy and really contrasty, and there's like a lot of dynamic range between the highlights and the shadows. Things like that chiaroscuro effect. Thanks, Anne, for submitting. This image is really cool. It's titled Gotham Life Turn It Down, and that's exactly the feel that I get from it. I love the purples. I don't know if that is the spirit of the camera, if you're made any changes, but really well done. It looks like you exposed all the lights, which is great because there's so clear detail. And the composition is really awesome. Don't really have a ton of feedback, just a little bit of it. And this one, I believe, was submitted by Tony. Tony submitted this image of this beautiful waterfall. Tony, again, I don't have a great deal of feedback for you. I was going to say maybe like crop this a little bit, but I really like how that little bit of greenery sort of frames the rest of the image and it balances this greenery out on the road. So I don't know, it's a great passion. Maybe I would like to see a little bit more of this up here so that it's not cut off at the top. I always feel like whenever I see photos of waterfalls like this and part of it is cut off kind of abruptly, it sort of feels like something's missing. I would like to see the full waterfall. But otherwise, it's really great. Nicely balanced. Awesome job. And the last image, let me see if I can get this into Tim Rosenthal. I have a really cool kangaroo in the morning light. This is really a great image. I would love to know if it's been a while, like how did you take this image? It's so cool. So a couple of things. This tree trunk feels like a little bit of an interesting. Drawing my attention away from the kangaroo. So you can either stop it or you can place it into Photoshop and just continue yourself to remove it. It would be a little bit tricky, but actually let me see if I can give you a quick scope on it. See if this will work. My second problem with this image is it feels a little bit flat. And it feels a little bit too cool. So morning light seems to be a little bit warmer than this. So I'm trying to recreate the scene. Photography and zooming, and I'm just going to try to touch up the content aware fill tool just to see how difficult exactly would it be to really make using the content aware fill tool. So I just highlighted the tree trunk and with the raster tool, and now I'm going to right click here and let's go. So it's content aware. and hit OK. It's important to have this image selected, otherwise it won't work at all. So let's see how it proceeds to do that. And conjuring workflow is really cool, but it's also kind of cumbersome sometimes. It's sort of up in the air when it works really well and when it doesn't. There's not really any sort of pattern that I've seen where it will work perfectly, but when it does work really perfectly, it's sort of amazing. So you can see here that it sort of recreated this and put it here, which you can easily tell if you look at this area of the image that it has been moved. So what I'm going to do is just select this and do the same thing. So I'm just going to go select content aware. I'm going to apply the code and not try that. Hopefully, if it looks right, it's just going to fill it up with more answers and it's going to be a lot more noticeable. Yeah, so you could continue to do this. You could try to use the healing brush, top healing brush tool and sort of perfect it. Like you can see that there's a little bit of repetition right here and right here, but honestly, it has taken that huge distraction away from the image. So now, unless somebody is very closely looking at it and inspecting this area of the image, the focus is going to be on the canvas. So now that I've done that, I'm just going to hit Command K or Command X or Control S if you're using a PC. And you can see that it's saving it and importing it right back into Lightroom. It's a really nice thing about having Creative Cloud Lightroom and Photoshop that it saves them seamlessly and brings them right back into Lightroom and then to save anything. Including the same folder in the computer as well. So I mentioned that I would like to see the image be a little bit warmer. And I'm going to compensate a little bit extreme back. I like the green, I like more green. And then I'm going to reduce the blacks until I see my pure blacks clear. And maybe even just a little bit more, just to add a little bit of contrast. Bring my shadows back, add a little bit of contrast. And that looks pretty great to me. Let's go back to the original. So, if you like that, awesome. If not, you want to switch to original, that's great too. But hopefully, this gives you guys an idea of how well the content is, so you can use it to make your images stronger. Yeah, very cool. Go back to mode. Great. Alright guys, that's it for this episode. I hope this critique was helpful. Again, it's pretty exciting. We'll be back in a couple of weeks next week for your off. Thanks so much for watching. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And we'll see you again another time.